There is a quiet crisis in the lives of kids today. Many see it, many sense it, and maybe you do. You know it's there, but you can't name what it is. You can't quite put your finger on that thing that it is. And I think that is what our guest has done. Some of the symptoms are unprecedented levels of anxiety, evidence of depression, emotional stress, and an inability to engage in real life, to risk, to deal with the discomfort of daily tasks, or to be able to do something and fail, or not be the best at something. Today's kids are shrinking back from that. Why? Today at the Radio Backyard Fence, author and therapist David Thomas returns because he believes the key to helping your children navigate these roadblocks is in one word. What is that word? You'll find out straight ahead as we ponder this question. Could the struggles your child is facing right now be the catalyst to producing resilience in them? Could the very thing that's holding them back give them momentum for the days ahead? And as a parent, is there any way you are hindering your child from moving toward becoming who they were meant to be? And I'll throw in one more hard question that I'm dealing with as I look at this. Are our kids simply exhibiting the struggles that we're going through as adults? All these questions and more are tackled straight ahead on the program, From the Heart to the Heart for the Heart. We call it Chris Fabry Live because I'm Chris Fabry, and we're live and we're online at the website, chrisfabrylive.org. Let me thank our team. Tricia is our producer. Chris and Lisa are doing all things technical. Josh will be answering your calls. And I want to highlight our Back Fence partners. Just yesterday, a listener in West Palm Beach in Florida signed up to give a monthly $20 gift. And if my math is correct, at 12 months times 20, that's $240. And that means so much to us at the Back Fence. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And it means that our listener is going to receive a link to a video of the two Michaels and Eva and Sue and what happened right after the program when they were with us at the end of May. We were celebrating 99 years of marriage for the four of them. And Dr. Rydelnik told the story on that video of the sentence he stole from the Van Lanninghams that's been helpful in his marriage. It's fun. You will laugh and you will see a little bit of what goes on behind the scenes. That's just one perk when you become a partner. The Back Fence post every Thursday. That was another thing. Michael talked about the word he misspelled in the spelling bee. Come on along. Support the program with a monthly gift of any size. Call us at 866-95-FABRY, 866-953-2279, or go to the website, chrisfabrylive.org. Scroll down. You'll see how you can be a friend, a one-time giver, or a partner with us each month. chrisfabrylive.org. And thank you for making a conversation like this one available because of your generosity. I think that's one of the best things about a program like this. You hear ideas, you hear about resources, you hear about what God is doing in hearts and lives that you may not hear about. So you're exposed to some of those helps that might be helpful to you or someone you care about. And that's why today we're welcoming back best-selling author and counselor David Thomas. For the last 30 years, he's been listening to kids and their families, helping them walk through their struggles at Daystar Counseling Ministries in Nashville. He and his co-author, Sissy Goff, have written a couple of dozen books together, and their latest is our featured resource today. The title is one word. I mentioned that earlier. I'm going to keep it a secret for now, but if you can't wait, go to the website. You can find out, chrisfabrylive.org. He and Sissy co-host the Raising Boys and Girls podcast. David, is married to Connie, and they have 3 children. David Thomas, welcome back to the program. How you doing today?
Chris, it is so good to be with you always. Thank you for the invitation.
I'm looking forward to this because the light bulb's going to come on for somebody, I think, and maybe it's just going to be me, but the one word that sums up the problem that you see also sums up the solution. So before we get to the word, I want to jump into one of the struggles that jumped out at me as I was reading this, because teenagers who are old enough to get their learner's permit or driver's license, when I was a kid, it was like the day that you turned 16, you were there. You know, you're filling out the form. That is not happening for some teens today. Talk about that.
Well, Chris, I would first say that's exactly the case for me. In fact, In my growing up, I don't remember a single adolescent who wasn't just chomping at the bit to arrive at that day to experience that significant milestone. And if you had said to me 30 years ago when I started doing this work, David, there'll come a time when you are going to encounter countless families who are asking the question, should I be pushing my teenager to move forward in getting their permit or their license? I would have laughed. Like, that's not possible. That won't ever be a situation we have to face. And it's a common conversation I have sometimes weekly, on occasion daily in my office. And that is but one example of dozens I could give that speaks to the concern we carry about kids engaging healthy risk. And healthy risk builds resilience, it builds confidence, it allows kids to develop essential problem-solving skills. It is so foundational to their growth and development. But you said something kindly in the introduction that I want to go back to that I think is of great importance in helping us understand why would kids be avoiding healthy risk. And you use the word discomfort. And I think that's important to circle back to. I love and appreciate the work of Dr. Susan David, who's gone on record as saying that discomfort is the price of admission to a meaningful life. And I think that's an incredibly true statement. Like, we are going to bump up against discomfort all throughout our moving through this world. And along the way, I think we have started to believe that discomfort is bad, that discomfort is to be avoided, which has translated into, I don't want to step into healthy risk. I don't want to move into these circumstances and situations and contexts that might trigger discomfort for me, where I might feel not confident, where I might feel uncertain in some way, as opposed to just remembering that's a normal part of growing up. That's a normal part. I appreciated when you speaking earlier about not just for the kids we love, but for us as adults. Like, discomfort is something every one of us is going to experience. It's a universal human experience.
Okay, so I wrote that down because I know somebody's going to say, what was that quote again? Discomfort is the price of admission to a meaningful life?
To a meaningful life.
Okay.
Yes.
And it's Susan, what's her last name?
Dr. Susan David. She wrote a wonderful book called Emotional Agility, and I think there's incredible truth to those words.
Well, and that's where maybe, we need to talk about that today about us, because you can't give your kids what you don't have.
Exactly.
You can only give out of the reservoir that you have. And if we as adults live in this world where our greatest goal is to not have discomfort, if we don't want tension, if we always want resolution in our lives, I don't want any mystery in my life. I got to know all the answers to all the questions, and I got to be right about everything, about the Bible. And I'm not saying don't be right about the Bible, but there are some things that I disagree with my friends about, who I love dearly. And it's like, we read the same Bible and we have the same spirit, and that's okay. But inside there is this tension. You know what I'm saying, right?
Yes. And that's a perfect example. It's like having hard conversations with people I love will involve discomfort at different points along the way. And that doesn't mean the conversation's bad or wrong. It doesn't mean the relationship is bad or wrong. It just means discomfort is the price of admission to a meaningful life. It's just going to show up in so many different moments. And the question becomes, how do I learn to navigate my discomfort? You said it beautifully, so that I can allow the kids I love to experience discomfort, and we can both be moving through life knowing, we have a phrase that we use a lot with kids, that nervous is normal. Nervous is normal. I'm going to feel it in so many different moments. When I stand up to do a presentation in front of the class, when I give a speech in front of the student body and I'm running for class office, when I ask a girl to the prom, like all these different milestones that we move through. When I go to take my driver's test, I'm going to feel nervous, I'm going to feel discomfort, and those aren't bad things.
All right, so there is a word, and so I want you folks, as you're listening to this, I want you to think, well, what is that word? If you haven't looked at the website yet, what is that word? Is it discipline? Is it risk? Is it non-discomfort? Is it the opposite? What do you think the word is that David and Sissy came up with to say to the younger person, to your child, to your teenager? What is that one word? And the word has the word bull in it. And we're going to find out what it is when we come back with David Thomas. You can find out more about him, and I guarantee you there are a lot of people going to the website right now. What is the word with bull in it? You'll hear it coming up straight ahead, or just go to chrisfabrylive.org. And my question to you is, what is your child or teenager dealing with? What is the inner struggle they're dealing with today? Give us a call today at the Radio Backyard Fence. I told David in the break that this is the first time that I've ever not given the title of the book for someone that I've talked with. And the reason why is I want you to think deeply about what is the answer to the struggles that the kids are going through these days. Because I know that a lot of people think, well, the internet's to blame, the phone is to blame, and we're going to talk about social media here today. But what is the one word that has bull in it that David and Sissy Goff have used? And I'll tell you what it is. Let me tell you the subtitle first. How to teach your kids strengths, skills, and strategies to build resilience. That's the subtitle. The one-word title is capable. They put the bull in capable. C-A-P-A-B-L-E. And part of capable is the word able. And so, all right, I want you to think about that for yourself, but think about it for your child or for your teenager. Why did you choose capable?
First of all, that word embodies everything that I would want parents to remember that God has sown into the kids we love. It's in them. He's placed it in them. Our job is just to grow and nurture and help that develop. And the definition, Chris, we talk a lot about in the book that we love is that capable kids have practiced coping and learned competence for life's challenges. And I want parents to pray over, think over, consider in the daily that definition. And what does it look like for me to just help what God has already placed inside of these kids I love to grow? And what's my role in helping develop more of that?
So you're calling that out of them from the inside, especially if they feel like, going out for a sports team. You use that in the book. It's like, no, I'm not going to try out because there's so many others who are better than I am. So I'm not even going to try that.
Yeah, that's it. And we talk so much about the animal of anxiety and the fact that it is considered to be a childhood epidemic in our country. The numbers are so high. Jonathan Haidt's famous work has defined this generation as the anxious generation. And what we know within the research in anxiety is that the two default practices for parents, so the most intuitive moves that we're making when we're not even aware we're doing it, are escape and avoidance. We see the kids we love struggling, and we want to extract them from that experience. They feel too overwhelmed in getting their driver's license, so we're like, okay, let's just postpone it. They're teary about being dropped off at the beginning of a season at a brand new practice. Okay, maybe we should just pull out a basketball. And what we know is that when we don't face the hard things, anxiety always grows. In fact, the working definition that my dear friend and colleague and co-author Sissy Goff created in her anxiety work in the book she's written is that anxiety is an overestimation of the situation and it's an underestimation of myself. So if we as parents are only practicing escape and avoidance as our two primary practices, then we're actually confirming and furthering that definition. You know what? Basketball is too scary and you're too incapable. You know what? Getting your driver's license does seem to overwhelm you too much. Let's just hold back on that. And we don't ever want to be confirming or furthering that definition. We want to be speaking the truth of who God made the kids we love to be and that He built this capability into them. And our job is just to create opportunities, which again are going to provide discomfort, and discomfort is just the price of admission to a meaningful life, so that they get to practice and learn the skills that remind them of how capable they are.
So the subtle message, especially if we want our kids to be happy and even-keeled and always bubbly and up and all of that, the subtle message that we're sending to them when we allow them to shrink back from whatever it is, and we don't mean to say this, but we communicate, you're not enough. You're not big enough for this thing that's in front of you.
That's it. And I really even appreciate that within asking that question, you use the word happy. Could I press into that for a quick moment and the role I think it plays in this equation? So, Chris, I would say if there are two trends that Sissy and I've seen in the past decade in particular that are a part of all this, are that we have given an overwhelming amount of attention to raising happy kids and raising confident kids. And notice when I gave that definition a few minutes ago, I talked about learning competence and not confidence, because I think those are two different things. And we can dissect that if that makes sense in a few moments. But if all the focus is just on happy and confident, I think we are doing a couple of things that aren't helpful to the kids we love. Again, unknowingly, because on the outset, it makes sense that we would want our kids to be happy, but I think we put so much focus on that, forgetting that happiness is temporary and transient. I'd invite any parent listening right now, pick a day in the past week and think about in your own experience when you experience genuine happiness throughout the day. If I were to pick 2 days ago, I remember waking up, I had a really great breakfast for about half an hour that morning, and later that night I remember sitting in the floor of my den. I was petting our Labrador puppy, and I was in a great, thoughtful conversation with my wife. And I would say it lasted about 45 minutes. I remember being really happy in those 2 moments. The rest of the day, I wasn't unhappy, but I was just doing the normal stuff of life. I was running errands, returning emails at work. And that ratio, my suspicion would be, is probably pretty true for a lot of people in this world. So think on that being true for us as adults. That same reality is going to be true for our kids. And if we're putting all this emphasis on happiness, we're setting kids up to not have a clue what a normal human experience is going to be like, and to feel really disappointed when happiness only shows up that percentage of the day. And what we're seeing happen with a lot of teenagers in particular is that when they don't feel happy in a lot of moments of the day, they start asking two questions. One is, what's wrong with me? Or two, what's wrong with my life? So I don't think that's at all a helpful target for us to be moving toward in all moments. So I want to really challenge parents. What if we were to replace that I want to raise happy kids with I want to raise capable kids? And then let's think about confident for a few moments. I think we placed a lot of attention on that, believing that to accomplish that, I just need to affirm and affirm and affirm. And hear me say, I think affirming kids is a great thing. Championing kids is a great thing. But in the book, we talk about how confidence comes from competence. It's birthed out of the everyday habits of doing hard things, of trying new things, of experiencing discomfort and learning I'm competent in these moments. When we try out a brand new sport, every one of us knows we're going to be kind of lousy on the front side and we're going to develop skills in the middle. And then the hope would be we feel a sense of satisfaction on the backside of having done something hard, even if it was a season that didn't have a great outcome. But I developed a competence through the experience that gives way to confidence. So we're a world that loves hacks. We don't love habits because those are more long-forming. We want a shortcut. We've worked hard, I think, in our world to try to eliminate a lot of waiting, and the reality being that there is so much good that happens in the building of habits. I think that's the birthplace of competence. And there's not a hack in parenting. There's not a hack in being an adolescent. There's not a hack in making it through a hard year when you're in fourth grade. Like, it is the everyday habits that build this competence all throughout our kids' growth and development. That is where I think confidence is birthed.
Is this why a lot of kids today who are into sports will focus on one sport rather than many and just go for that and do the traveling team and you know, because they've got to get to college, you know, and then they want to make it to the majors or whatever it is that they're doing. And they focus on this one thing because they're good at it.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And I think it is why so many kids pass certain points throughout their growing up that they think it's just too late. It's just too late for me to take up a new sport, a new activity, try out for a play for the first time. And I can remember back to my growing up, and I'd be curious if it was the same for you. Like when I was growing up, kids tried a lot of sports all the time. And I knew plenty of kids who played football and also were in the school play. And there was all this overlap of opportunity because we weren't so singularly focused.
Yes.
In a way that I believe allowed kids to experience a lot of things and to realize I'm not so great at a handful of things, and I figured out I'm kind of great at this one thing. Like all of that experimentation, I think, gives way to so much. But there is this belief, to your great question, I think that no, there's just one thing, and you got to find your way to just that one thing, and then specialize in just that one thing, and don't try other things that might be hard, that you might not be so great at. And there's so much good learning that happens in those moments.
And that's where it comes back to the parent, I think, because as a parent, and I felt this way, it's like I see the strengths of one child and it's like, go for this. And why don't you do this? Because, they might not be as good at that. And it comes from the parent rather than saying, hey, try this. And if you fail, and I don't even like the word fail, but if you're not as good as others, because that's what kids will think. If I'm not as good, if I'm not the best in the whole class at this or in the whole grade at this, then I'm a failure. And that's not true, is it?
Not at all. In fact, we in the book flip failure on its head. We have an acronym in the book that I'd love for parents to think about talking with their kids about today. FAIL stands for a first attempt in learning. That's what FAIL is. It's a first attempt in learning. As opposed to believing it's this negative thing, it means I didn't succeed. It's like it's the front side of an opportunity. And we did an interview a couple of years ago with a woman named Shauna Nequist, and Shauna wrote a great book called I Guess I Haven't Learned That Yet, that was birthed out of this experience she told of having moved from Chicago to New York City, and early into the experience and all these new opportunities, she kept hearing her son say things like, I'm failing at this. School was way different in one state than it was in the other, and there was this belief of I'm not succeeding as opposed to I'm just learning. She was like, I put those words on a note card on the refrigerator to remind every one of us, like we're just learning. I've never had to purchase groceries and get them up to the 7th floor of a building because we lived in a 1-story house. I've never had to navigate public transportation because we used a car. We're all learning, and we just haven't learned that yet. So think on FAIL as a first attempt in learning, and what would it look like for us to narrate our experience as parents of finding out what it's like to be trying things in the beginning and figuring out where we're doing a lot of learning and not defining that as a negative thing.
Yes. And the dirty secret is that your first attempt in learning, you may not be as good at that, but you really like, the process that you're in. And that may be the thing that you gravitate toward more than the thing that you feel like you're good at. So there's two things already in this program. The Dr. Susan David quote, discomfort is the price of admission to a meaningful life, number one. Number two, the acrostic for FAIL, first attempt in learning. Now I'm going to open the phone lines here at 877-548-3675. There is somebody who has been listening to what David Thomas has been saying and capable, and you're seeing your own life as a parent, or maybe you don't even have kids and you're seeing your life because you shrink back from, risking or doing that thing because I don't want to feel bad about that. And you see how that stunted your growth. Or maybe you're the parent and you have a child, you have an elementary school child, son or daughter, or you have a teenager who's in that driving age group but doesn't want to do that because it's too scary. It's just too scary. I want you to tell me this story, and David's going to come alongside you, and what he's written along with Sissy Goff in this book is going to help. This is one of those resources that I think could turn the light on for you. It's titled Capable: How to Teach Your Kids the Strengths, Skills, and Strategies to Build Resilience. It's our featured resource at chrisfabrylive.org. chrisfabrylive.org. Tricia wrote me a note. She said yesterday's program with Michelle Watson Canfield, who is known as the Dad Whisperer, she said, dads who don't take the step to relationship with their son or daughter and are not doing anything with their kids do so because they are afraid they're doing it wrong. Is it because they don't feel that they're competent and therefore have no confidence in their roles as a dad? And do we as parents need to model capableness? What do you say to that?
It's an incredible question. And I would first say this. I think we as males do a lousy job oftentimes, and I'm including myself in this, please hear me say that, entangling up our identity and our performance. I think it's something we have to work against all throughout our lives, and think about how we feed and fuel that culturally. When men introduce themselves, or when they're asked about themselves, the most common question would be, "What do you do?" As if that's the most interesting and important thing about who I am. The most important thing about who I am is that I'm a beloved son of God, and I'm also a son and a brother and a husband and a father. Those are the most important things about me, and I'm also an author and a therapist. But if we begin and continue in that place, I think we reinforce that sense of that's what's most true. And then I'm not all that interested in trying things where I don't feel competent, because it doesn't stir a great part of me.
All right, your observations, questions for David Thomas straight ahead on Moody Radio. We're talking with David Thomas, who is co-author of Capable, How to Teach Your Kids the Strengths, Skills, and Strategies to Build Resilience. He wrote this along with Sissy Goff. And our number is 877-548-3675. Is there anything that we're talking about, does it strike a nerve in you about yourself or about children these days? And what about social media? What about the internet? We're going to talk about that. 877-548-3675. But as you're talking here today, David, I'm thinking my youngest, we have 9 children, my youngest just turned 25 2 days ago. So it's like they're still in that era of, even as adults, I can stunt their capability, by doing stuff for them. But you're talking about a younger group. So now we go to our correspondent with 3 children who are right in the middle of this, who was just on vacation last week. Here's Tricia McMillan. Hi, Tricia.
Hi. So I was thinking.
Hi, Tricia.
Hi. I was thinking about this book because we were up in the Chattanooga area and up on Lookout Mountain, and we stopped at this waterfall hike thing to do. And we got to this waterfall, and there were these big boulders, which I live in Illinois. Where I live in Illinois, we don't have a lot of those big places where you can climb other than, playgrounds. And they were very excited to climb these boulders. But I was thinking about this book the whole time, because I was like, this is helping them to become capable, that they can climb these boulders and problem solve and figure out how to get up to the next little pool of water and how to get up higher on this hill. And it was a good check for me to, like, I wasn't super anxious, but I did have the thought of, if someone falls off of this boulder and they hit their head, can we get airlifted out, or how does someone come rescue them? However, I was like, this is good for them. Like, if I can let them do this, this is a good release for me to let them do this. And it's good for them to help them see they can do this. Like, my one of my children then was having trouble getting off of the boulder back onto the path. And just seeing him problem solve and figure out, if I go to this other little spot, this is a little closer and I can get off. And so it was very close on my mind while I was on vacation last week. But it was fun to see that and just see their confidence or their competence in doing it, build their confidence that they could do it.
Tricia, you have no idea how encouraged I am to hear you tell that story. And can I tell you, one of my favorite parts within what you told was the moment where you said, I checked myself. Like, I loved your awareness of yourself, because any parent listening who loves their kids knows every one of us has had that exact moment. We've had 100 of that exact moment of thinking, is this too scary? What could happen? Where fear could override the possibility of you letting them experience something good. And notice that when we talked about risk earlier, and you just painted a beautiful picture of that, like, we talked about healthy risk. Healthy risk is any activity that just creates excitement without the potential for unhealthy consequences. I'm not endorsing unhealthy risk, but I would say this. I think kids who don't have enough opportunity to experience healthy risk, which again involves us checking ourselves, often find their way to unhealthy risks throughout their growing up, because I think risk is hardwired into the heart of kids. There's this desire, particularly as they move deeper into adolescence, and they're craving independence and autonomy and launching out into the world. And so the beauty of the story you've told is just the invitation into two things, giving them an opportunity for all the great things you described that came, and even opportunity for ourselves to figure out, okay, how do I manage my fear in these different moments so that I don't stand in the way of this beautiful opportunity? So I love that you told that story. I love that they had that experience.
Talk to the person who's like me, though, who's a catastrophizer, who, if you put me on Lookout Mountain with those kids, I would have bungee cords around every one of them, and helmets, and you're going to scrape your. I would do the exact same thing. Life flight. I got to figure out, well, how much is that going to cost? And the rattlesnakes. What about the rattlesnakes? I give you 100 different scenarios of ways that kids can get hurt, and hold back from that. So, what do you say to the catastrophizer who's listening?
I love your honesty and owning your struggle in that, Chris, and I think it's universal. And I think it varies depending on the situation. I think it can vary depending on the kid, and it can vary depending on, here's what's key, the amount of work we're doing, have done, so that we can pay attention to the right things, back to that language of check ourselves. And we have long said, Sissy and I have long said, and will always believe, the greatest gift we can give the kids we love is doing our own work. Otherwise, think about that famous quote of, whatever we don't transform, we will transfer. And so not only could our fear stand in the way of a beautiful opportunity for our kids, but I could spill that fear all over my kids in a way that they start to absorb that as their everyday experience. We talk a lot about how anxiety is contagious, but the great news is calm is contagious too, but it takes some work to get to that place for ourselves so that we can offer the calm we want to offer. So I think it's a matter of thinking through, what do I need to do to attend to this, whether it's in the moment, because I appreciate it even when you asked that question, Chris, of just, for you, safety, it wouldn't have been wrong to say safety might involve, okay, I need everybody to wear a helmet when we're doing the climbing. Or let's figure out how we can use some ropes in helpful ways.
For me, it was walking down the sidewalk. It was like, put your helmet on. Where's your knee pads? And I'm being hard on myself. But that's what I do. I spin that with my kids, but I spun it for myself as well. And fortunately, I married somebody who is not that way. Who went full tilt on a bicycle down, the driveway of life and let the wind fly in her hair, and she leaked that over onto me. Okay, so there's the other. Who said whatever we don't transform, we transfer? Does that
Richard Rohr?
Richard
Rohr,
okay.
Who's a Catholic priest, has been credited with those words.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so there's 3 quotes. Discomfort is the price of admission to a meaningful life. First attempt in learning is what fail is, and Richard Rohr's whatever we don't transform, we transfer, which takes us to William in Illinois. William, why'd you call today?
Well, I have 9 children. I'm Gen X. I'm 55, and when I was little, my mom was Ho Chi Minh. I lived in a tiger cage, and I didn't have a dad. I grew up into drugs. Had a fallout, but I became a dad. You don't know how I got online because I had to adopt and everything, but nonetheless, my attitude, my son was preemie, 2 pounds, 3 ounces. He was one of 4. He's the only one that survived. And from that moment, I instilled upon him what was never given to me, a self-awareness that you can do anything if you put your mind to it. And then I had my daughter, Maggie, and it bled over into her. But the only thing I did was I did the exact opposite of what my parents did. If my kids did something wrong, I did the exact opposite of what my mother did to me. And I always told my kids, never give up. You can do this. Believe in yourself. You can do it. You will succeed. You can only rely on yourself. And I have to say that is what helped my parenting to give my children the success that they are today. I have a variety of them. So I just want to
William,
say that.
I'm really glad that
as a parent.
I'm so glad that you got through, William, because there's somebody listening who needed to hear what you said, because they had a parent who did like your mom did, the cage, and they've had a hard time breaking out of it. You just kind of flipped it around. And I want to ask you, David, the power of a dad, since we're coming up to Father's Day, a dad can have a huge impact on a child's life like that, right?
Oh, huge impact. And I could feel the evidence of your heart as you were asking that question on behalf of the kids and sharing your story. And I love that we're highlighting the impact. It's overwhelming how much research continues to communicate that reality and how transformative a dad's voice and presence can be in the life of a child. And even back to what we were talking about a moment ago, if it does require, how do we untangle that message of what's most true about me is how I perform out in the world. So we've got to do some untangling so that we can free our kids up. And then I think to everything you were just sharing, we've got to do some work, or else what can often happen, you talked about going the opposite direction. What can so often happen is, those words in the scripture, it's not very pleasant to go back to, but it says we're dogs that return to our vomit. We're creatures of habit, and we can intuitively, instinctively go back to what's most familiar, even when it's not helpful, it's not healthy, it's not what we want or desire. But I think it's even within the conversation we were sharing about anxiety. Like, unless I do the work I need to do on behalf of the kids that I love, I could return back to that fear that stands in the way of building this capability that I desire.
Yeah. And I think so much of my life I have felt, as a parent or whatever, it's just, okay, where's the problem and how do we fix it? And where's the mallow? Okay, anxiety in kids. Okay, what's the formula to fix that? And a child is not a thing to be fixed. It's a person to be loved, and a person to see yourself in as well. Because in a lot of ways, I think of myself, my own life, as, okay, how do I fix this? What is the fix in here? And I don't think God is looking at me and saying, okay, I need to fix this, I need to fix this. He is wooing me toward himself in a relationship. And we can talk more about that, as well as the capable building exercises that you have in this book, Capable, How to Teach Your Kids Strengths, Skills, and Strategies to Build Resilience, our featured resource at chrisfabrylive.org, chrisfabrylive.org. Speaking about dads, we're going to open the phone lines for you tomorrow to tell me what your dad did that showed his delight in you, or what dads do today. I've been seeing things in the neighborhood, keeping a mental list of them about what dads do. So let's have a conversation tomorrow here at the Back Fence. Today, David Thomas, who along with Sissy Goff has written the book Capable, How to Teach Your Kids the Strengths, Skills, and Strategies to Build Resilience. Part of this is you've made it very, very practical. And I want to get to a couple of those practical, capable building exercises, the CBEs that you have. There's also a workbook for the kids between 6 and 12 who can go through this. But take an elementary school aged child, take a teenager. Tell me a couple of these exercises for both of them.
Well, first off, I appreciate you mentioning them. They're one of my favorite parts of the book, and we packed the workbook full of opportunity because we want this book and workbook to be experiential. We don't want it to just be information. We want it to be opportunity for practice. And so we have a list of 100 capable building exercises where we start with littles, we move to middles, we go toward older. So we're trying to make the content as user-friendly as possible. And so a great example would be, one of the strengths that we talk about in the book is flexibility. So honestly, this could be done with littles, middles, or olders. But when you go to sit down tonight at dinner, practicing flexibility is so important to all kids, but in particular kids who are anxious, because those kids can often get really rigid and inflexible in life, and their primary means of coping can be control. And so they don't love it when they get a curveball and can fall apart in the least of curveballs they get. So practice flexibility by saying, okay, tonight before we sit down at the dinner table, everybody move one seat to the left. We're going to sit in a different spot if we always sit in the exact same spot. Or, hey, this week we're going to switch it up, and Dad's going to do drop off and I'm going to do pickup. Or your grandparents are going to do drop off, or the next door neighbor is going to do pickup. So do some swapping around for the sake of practicing flexibility in small ways, so that when kids get to the bigger things that change unexpectedly, they have had practice all on the way and it doesn't feel so overwhelming.
You have to be intentional with that, though. You have to, especially get the neighbors or your grandparents involved. And do you tell the kids, okay, this is for flexibility, or do you just say, here's what we're doing?
I think it's great to not tell them when the practices are coming up, because there could be some dread and a lot of moaning and groaning that we could avoid. And I want them to experience the element of surprise. But when we do it, I do think it's important within the experience to talk about the importance of flexibility. So define the purpose within the experience, but throw them some curveballs. It's a great thing for kids to practice in the small ways.
One other practical exercise, especially for teenagers.
Yeah. This could be a good experiment to do as a family. We have a whole chapter on managing emotions, which is foundational for every one of us to develop skills in this space. And we talk about a really easy, simple definition that healthy coping, A, brings relief, and B, does no harm. So healthy coping brings relief and does no harm. And generally speaking, in this world, we're all pretty good at finding our way to things that bring relief, but sometimes it brings harm. So a great example would be a lot of kids, a lot of teenagers, when they're struggling internally, can yell at siblings, yell at parents. That may bring a little relief to get that intensity out, but it brings harm to the relationship if I'm punishing the people I love the most in this world. And think about numbing with screens. We're all vulnerable to that. And we all know it can bring relief to do a little doom scrolling for a few minutes, and then we have every one of us experienced that moment where it's like, I have been on this device way too long. Why did I let this become a source of relief? Because my brain just kind of feels like mush right now. So we think it's a great practice for families to sit down and make what we call a top 5 list. Just a top 5 list of healthy coping strategies that meet both criteria. What are things that bring relief but do no harm? And it's really fun. We've got a whole host of ideas that we recommend to kids and to adolescents and to families as they do some experimenting. And then part of having a resilient mindset is revisiting that top 5 list all along the way and figuring out, am I still using all 5? Maybe I'm not really using number 3. So let's take that off and replace it with something better. That's having a resilient mindset. If something's not working, I'm open to trying something new.
Christopher's in Cleveland, Tennessee. Christopher, why'd you call today?
Hello, and God bless. How are you today?
Thank you. Doing great. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, David was my youth minister growing up in Atlanta. I was anything but a good child, and he's stayed to be one of my best friends. I'm 49 now, so 35 some odd years ago, he was my safe harbor. Kept me out of some pretty dark places. So I just about ran off the road because I had the station on. And I heard him come on, and I got home, and I immediately had to call in. So, David, good to hear you on the radio, bud.
Christopher, it's good to hear you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for taking time to call in.
Well,
okay, you got to give me a specific here, Christopher. What did was there a verse that he gave you? Was there a sentence that like he's given to us here today, quotes, or was he just there?
Just about everything he said today is something that he helped instill in me. I came from a group of 4 children, and I was always the black sheep, and so I was always looking for something to fill that hole for me. And luckily, David came along, and there's a song that we did at a youth group retreat. It's called "Lord, Prepare Me to Be a Sanctuary." I'm not going to sing it because I don't sing very well. But I do remember that was a life-changing moment for me, and it's something I've carried with me throughout the adult life. And,
wow.
2 of my kids are grown. I've got an 11-year-old, and then the love of my life, he has an 11-year-old too. So,
wow.
It's all good information. Now that I know he's got a book, I've got to go get it. So
there you go. Well, if you'll hang on, we'll get you a copy. So don't go anywhere, Christopher. I've got to hear what's rolling around your soul, David, when you hear that.
Well, the gift of doing this work with students for so many years. Although I don't love a lot of things about being this old, the one thing I really do love is the chance to get to see the evidence of amazing humans who turn out to be incredible parents. Christopher, you're such a picture of that, like who grow and go out in the world and turn around and give back things they experienced through their own experience to their own kids. And so Sissy and I laugh all the time about that's the one upside about being this old, is we get to see the fruit and the evidence of just students we had the great privilege of knowing at some point all along the way in our work, and seeing them be extraordinary parents themselves.
Well, what he said was gold. And the other thing that it means is that you can have someone other than your parents talk about this kind of thing and speak this in, call it out, the capability of your life. If you didn't have that parental figure that gave you that, there are others who can give you that, and that's okay to give you that kind of wing, those kinds of wings. Christopher, hang on, we'll get your information. David, great to see you. Get to talk with you at least here today at the back fence. You tell Sissy we said hello, and come back and see us real soon, okay?
I promise I will, Chris. Thank you for the good work you're doing in the world. It's always a joy to spend time with you.
His name is David Thomas, along with Sissy Goff. They have written Capable, How to Teach Your Kids the Strengths, Skills, and Strategies to Build Resilience. It's our featured resource. Just go to chrisfabrylive.org, and we have the workbook link there as well for children 6 to 12, so the parents can read the book and the kids can go through the workbook. And we'll meet here again next week, and you tell us how it's going with you there, doing that Capable thing. Or if you're like me and you have so much dread in your life and you catastrophize, tell me how that's going as well. Thanks for listening today. Come on back tomorrow. It's a Father's Day celebration about Dad right here on Chris Fabry Live, which is a production of Moody Radio, ministry of Moody Bible Institute, online, chrisfabrylive.org.